the law in the form of norm. Let's see this other aspect. So, again, I will go quickly, but it's before this thing. Through this distinction between the norm and the decision, you can see, yes, the aspect of a law which is the norm is suspended. So there is no norm which is enforced anymore, but we can ground the state of exception on this other aspect, which is the decision, which is the concrete application, which is the concrete realization and validity of the law. And so we can also understand now why in the political theology the theory of the state of exception takes the form of a theory of sovereignty, precisely because the decision is the element who grounds the state of the state of exception. Then the sovereign becomes the one who can decide on the state of exception. And this way, both suspend the juridical order, but still maintain the relationship between this suspension and the juridical order. But anyway, this is, this is easy to understand. In this conception, this juridical conception, the state of exception has a paradoxical status because it represents the inclusion of a space which is outside, or better, it is neither outside nor inside. I quote, Schmidt will write, the sovereign, state Ausnahmezustand, is outside the juridical order and nevertheless belongs to it, because it's the one who takes the decision. So, very strange statement, could say to be outside and nevertheless to belong. To be outside and nevertheless to belong. This is the topological structure, the state of exception. It is ecstasy, can you say in English? Ecstasy and belong. Paradoxical. Ecstasy being outside and nevertheless to belong. So let's try to understand, better understand what are the theoretical implications of this very interesting juridical political construction. In 1989, Jacques Derrida gave at Cardoso School of Law in New York a lecture whose title was Force de loi, Force of Law, Mystical Foundation Authority. This beautiful conference, which was in fact a reading of Benjamin Hesse's essay on the critique of violence, was widely debated among philosophers, but also among jurists. And again, it is a proof of the decay of juridical culture and the fact that no one, neither philosopher, but that's important, but no jurist tried to analyze the very formula, the very title of the conference, Force of Law, Force de loi. Where does this come from? What does it mean? So let's try to use a genealogical inquiry. So the syntagm force of law has a long tradition which goes back to Roman and also medieval law, where it defines generally the efficacy of the law. It's also again the application. Then only during the French Revolution, again, this expression, force de loi, began to designate the hierarchic primacy of the law with respect to the other acts of the state. So in the Article 6 of the Constitution of 1791, force de loi, force of the law, means the intangibility of the law with respect, for instance, to the sovereign. So the sovereign cannot change the law. So in this sense, for the force of law doesn't mean only the efficacy of the law, but it means this relative relationship between many state acts. So the law has a special rank. But what is more important, that we now see really the technical use of this expression in the juridical tradition, both in the ancient author Roman law and the modern, we see that force of law, which is really strange, does not at all refer to the law, but to those acts, for instance, decrees, special measure, for instance, the one taken by the government in the state of exception, who are not technically law, but acquire the force of law. So this is the most important thing. So force of law does not refer to the law, but to those acts of the executive power of the government, especially, who normally should not have force of law, are the hierarchical failure to the law, but suddenly, in the state of exception, acquire the force of law. So, for instance, already Rome during the period, when the prince begins to acquire the power of promulgate acts which more progressively become something similar to the law, to call it Roman tradition, only the people would proclaim the law. So when the prince begins to proclaim these acts, then the Roman jurists forged expression said that in this case, what principi placuit legis habet vigore, in Italy, what the prince liked has the vigor of law, has force of law. So this is the beginning. Then this goes up to Eichmann repeating during the Jerusalem process what the Führer said had Gesetzeskraft. Because contrary repeated, nobody understood, but he was right. In the Nazi regime, the words of the Führer had technically force of law. So, you see, what seems important to me is to understand that force of law doesn't refer to the law. On the contrary, there is no law at this moment, but some measure, some decree, some acts taken by the government, by the executive power, acquire force of law. And what is important to me is, yes, first, but not only, in fact, so that they refers to something which characterizes the state of exception. That is to say that in the state of exception, the powers, executive power, legislative power, juridical power, which are normally distinguished in a democratic constitution, coincide, become confused. The acts of the executive power acquire the force of law, etc., etc. So there is a confusion between the balance of powers, first, but even more important from a theoretical point of view is that we have this strange figure of a law which is there but has no force, it's not in force, and acts, decree, and measure which are not formally laws who have force of law. So I think that perhaps we should, to really define what the force of law is, we should write it there.